I have my own PR music company called Crystal Moon PR.
Woo!
Thank you. We're 1 year old. But I've been doing PR for a while now.
That is absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
So I will start by asking the most basic question, because there can be a lot of misconceptions, everything that come up along those lines there. So can you briefly describe the role of a music publicist?
Yeah, sure. So not just for music publicists, but it's pretty general for all publicists. So we are the bridge between your client, aka the artist, a brand, whatever. Since music publicist, the artist, a band, and the media. So we're here to put your best foot forward. That's what we do. Pretty sweet, simple, right? Not confusing, hopefully.
No, exactly. And I'm going to kind of lead right into that and ask, when should a musician or a band start looking into a publicist? Are there any markers or points in the career that you would really highlight that would be a good time for them to seek something?
Yeah, so it really varies from scenario to scenario, but definitely if this is your first couple of months being in a band, you don't need a publicist. Focus on shows. If you're releasing an EP, maybe try to do it yourself first, reach out to publications. But if you're going on the second round of an EP, you're doing your debut LP, maybe it's time for you to have a publicist. To lengthen your time process, it's a lot more connections that your publicist should have, people that you may not be able to reach necessarily, but maybe by around that time, you should start thinking about getting a publicist.
Now, since you said that after dropping the first one yourself, would you say that having the band's experience of dropping their own one would kind of help their interaction with you, so you can get a better idea of seeing how they operate?
Yeah. Realistically, PR it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're not gonna get into Rolling Stone's first EP out. It's just the realistic factor. You have to set your expectations. You have to talk to your publicist. You as a band, you try to reach out to publications. Maybe you already established really good relationships with those publications. You can get in there. But what else can you do beyond that? That's where a publicist can come in and help you figure that out. Set up those goals for you. If you ever went through the college process, I'm sure some of you have, your counselor's what are your reach schools? What are your reach publications? Where do you want to see yourself, down the line? Oh my God, I made it. This is it. This is fucking sick. Ooh, am I allowed to curse? I'm sorry.
Honestly, I'm not sure. Go for it.
I'm this is sick. This is where I want to be. And then think about publications, realistically, this is where I fit in, And then the lower tier, hanging fruits, is yeah, you definitely should go for those. It'll be your thing to get, So there's different layers.
Oh, absolutely. And digital age, social media and everything like that, and especially with music, a publicist's role has grown significantly. It's no longer just articles and interviews. Can you talk about how that's changed?
Yeah. So with social media, I know personally I like to coordinate social media posts with my bands, whatever they have going on, whether they're at shows, they have any sort of graphics coming out, anything important, just to make sure you have that boost from your publicist's audience, your band's audience. Obviously, I think we talked about a little bit yesterday if you were here for the panels that I forgot who mentioned it, I'm sorry, but making sure, I think it was Joe, coordinating all of your people with you with your socials, making sure everybody's on the same page, because those are different target audience that you're going to be able to pull. And then making sure we as publicists are very, very on our timeline, because writers have their own timeline. And print magazine has an even bigger timeline down the line, so we have to get those right away. And with that timeline, hey, this is going to come out X day. We need to make sure we're building up that. Especially if you're doing premieres, we need to make sure we're hyping up that. Hey, check out blah 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 magazine in 2 days for something cool, and then build that way. So trying to coordinate a calendar, making sure you're organized with social media, having somebody else look at your graphics as a publicist, a different perspective is always helpful. Just thoughts.
And also continuing on with the social media, I mean, obviously social media is a giant and a massive industry now, so it feels like in a lot of ways it has kind of taken over pretty much every other form. Is print media dead?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think one of the best things as an artist coming up is to focus on your local print. Local print. You have a show coming up at your local bar, maybe try to get it on a calendar, on a newspaper, your local newspaper, things that are happening in your city. I'm sure they have some magazines all over that about things to do this day, for the holidays, for this, for that. You try to look for those. Try to maybe you bring out a journalist that is a local journalist to cover your show. They do a print feature. I don't know. I think physical clippings is pretty cool. Sometimes links can die. Magazines, publications decide to revamp. There goes your link. So you should always probably screenshot your press clippings, not even though it's not physical. But at least with a newspaper, a magazine, any of that stuff, you can actually cut it out and have it. It's it builds up a good portfolio. This is what you've done. This is what you've been able to gain. And it's you kind of feel like a little local celebrity, It's I'm in the newspaper, I'm in the local magazine. I think it's pretty cool. So no, definitely go for print media.
No, that's really good to hear. And that kind of answered the next one there. If the band should be seeking that out there, does the effort for that, do you think, equal the value when it comes to going for the physicals?
It does. Like I said before, it helps you build a portfolio for your press clippings. Because I know a lot of the times writers would go online and look for what have you already been on. What have people already said about you as a way of researching you before they talk to you? I want to know more about this band. What music do you have? What are they saying about that particular song? What did they say about that show that this journalist went to? Definitely having more perspective, different points of view into you from other journalists is important, and then it'll help them build maybe a better storyline, what you're trying to say down the line. And like I said, publicity, it's a marathon. It builds on top of each other. It's layers, and it's not a race. So it's not gonna be you're gonna make it 1, 2, 3. You're not. That's just the realistics, So definitely go for as much. The more the merrier, and obviously for PR, it's quality content for sure as well.
I think actually we even talked on that a little bit yesterday too. I believe Joe's exact words are, unless you get Simon Cowell to come into the B spot here and pick you up immediately, it is always going to be a marathon.
Absolutely, yeah. With everything we do in the music world,
Yeah. And I'll even throw back a little bit here and bring back the MySpace days into this one. So blogs seemed to be the biggest way that bands were breaking out 10 years ago. They seem to have died down significantly. How much effort should bands be placing into that? I
think it goes back into building up your portfolio, right? That also helps with your SEO. You look up your band name, that article, the small blog is going to come out and be on the search engine, And you should go for the smaller blogs, because these are people that are usually really passionate about what they're writing about, and people that are they genuinely like you. This is their perspective, their words. It's not oh, this is another band that I have to check out. No, for the most part, it's because they listen to your music and they genuinely want to know more. So I think blogs for that, to create a true fan is always important in that aspect. And then it also, like I said, helps your SEOs, for sure.
Yeah, especially with you talking about how much the bloggers, they love the subject matter,
yes,
which is important on that one. So it can definitely give you a really strong, foothold
Absolutely.
when approaching into that.
Yeah, especially you don't even know where that blogger starting off today. tomorrow they could be writing for Rolling Stones. I keep going back to Rolling Stones, I don't know why. But they could be at Rolling Stones tomorrow and they're like, oh my God, I remember this band when they gave me a chance when I was writing out in my blog. Oh my God, where are they now? What are they doing? I gotta look into this. And that's your foot into that magazine, you know?
Yeah, and that's an especially amazing thing. And that also comes back to with like the cultural growth. I mean, hey, shout out for the music conference here and everything like that.
Yes.
But like that's part of the reason why we try to foster and promote that inner growth, you know, that grouping, getting people to meet with one another is because you all will have the opportunity to grow with each other. Just to re-highlight and re-promote something that Joe mentioned here when it comes specifically to the music awards that were on Thursday. You're up there with the best of the best people in the area. You should be making friends, not dissing on each other. And it goes out into the same way with the online platforms, you know, like the blogs and everything else. Bring each other up, they'll help each other
Absolutely.
out. It all fosters growth.
I have a client right now in Canada. They're on tour in Canada. And that wouldn't have happened if they weren't going out to shows, doing local shows in New York and like helping out bands that were coming from Canada into New York, and they're like doing show trades, you know? That now they're able to, like, I think this is like the second time they're in Canada because of that. So definitely connecting, like making friendships. You never know like who will end up liking your music, who will end up being your best friend in the music industry, like who you'll see everywhere in the conferences, and you'll be like, oh my God, it's you, how are you doing, what's going on, blah, 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 you know? It's very exciting to see like your growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will now take us from the ancient past, that is MySpace, into the modern future. Let's talk about TikTok.
The TikTokies?
Yes. So the most basic question, the easiest way to ask this, is the hype real?
I think being on top of any new social platform is very, very important, especially TikTok. We've seen all the influencers that come out of there just from doing dances. That good for them. I would never, because I don't have dance. I have 2 left feet. But they were able to do stuff, you know? Like keep putting yourself out there, growing your fans. Like even if you have a single coming out and you're hyping up that single until it comes out, making 10 different pieces of content, just like Joe said, making those contents different which way, and you always have that song because it's coming out in like 2 weeks, you know? Definitely keeping an eye engagement into what you have going on. I think it's important. And personally, I think if you could be more candid on TikTok and like just be yourself, that's fun. You know, see what you're doing in your personal brand, and then connect it with your band's personal brand. You know, because if my band's doing this, come out to a show, do this. But then also just not trying to keep pushing, because then that gets a little annoying. Like going back to what Joe said yesterday, you're not gonna want to be friends with that person that it's like, listen to my single, listen to my single, listen to my single. Like, it gets annoying.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, I've met a couple that are like that, and yes, sometimes you do have to rein it in with that. Now, another thing with the whole TikTok there is, I feel like you kind of already answered it, but like, how much effort should people really be placing into the efforts of TikTok? And then I also want to add on to that and say that with your role as a publicist here, has TikTok kind of like helped you or I don't want to say harmed you, but like been more of a detriment depending on like what the bands do or the artists do on the social media presence? Yeah,
so I definitely don't think it's hurt publicists. If anything, I think it definitely helps, because then that's another different strategy that you can use. Like for instance, I had a campaign in one of my old companies where MXPX was dropping a single, and it was like a wedding theme, right? So we were trying to encourage people to do TikToks to reminisce about their wedding, or if you're engaged, you know, like you preparing for your wedding, you know, things like that. Focus around this song. Like do the video and then put this song underneath, and that builds up obviously the SEO, the engagement, probably the streams when it came out, definitely the streams when they came out, you know? So that's just like a creative way trying to tackle this new single that you're trying to put out. You know, try to be creative, be fun. I think you should definitely put effort. I definitely feel a little embarrassed making TikToks and putting myself out there and talking to a camera, and I can't hear my own voice. Like, if this is recorded, I'm probably not gonna listen to it. I'm gonna get something like, do I sound okay? But like, you have to put yourself out there, especially if you're a musician, especially if you're an artist, and this is what you're gonna do. Put yourself out there. Be candid. Be fun. Do you? You know. At the end of the day, I think you'll get more engagement to being true to you, as inspirational as that might sound. You know, let's be inspirational. Be you.
Absolutely. We're all about positivity here, every single one of us. So touching back actually with, again, still staying on the TikTok here, specifically about influencers. Have you worked specifically with influencers? Have you done any of that kind of work with them?
I've done something, nothing over the top. We've like done Twitch streamers, trying to get them to, you know, while they're gaming, put whatever song that makes sense. It's the process would be shooting your shot. Even if you're trying to do this on your own, shoot your shot for everything, even influencers. Hey, this is what I want to do. I think it would be a good idea because it relates to your content because XYZ. Obviously, do research before you reach out to this person, because if you're a metalcore band, it's not going to make sense with a fashion blog, realistically. Unless that fashion blog is like, they're really into metal, then sure. But sometimes that might not work out. Just be realistic, try to make it make sense, shoot your shot, and the worst thing they can say is no. As a publicist, I get a million no's all the time. You know? It happens. It happens. I can't twist people's arms to be like, you need to listen to this music. You need to like this music. It's just the reality of them. I'm like, I hope you like this music. This is why you should back this music. This is the story behind this song. And so on and so forth. Cultivating your story is important.
Yeah, and even go with the influencers. Like, even on my perspective, again, my perspective is, it's narrow, it's niche, it's a little unique. I'm a very large fan of metal music. Modern metalcore is kind of my thing. And there are many influencers that I constantly see in the inner circles on social media that they're all friends with one another. Even if you know just one of them, that could be a very large gateway to getting in. And even if it doesn't work with one, try another. Go through that person's history. You might be able to find somebody that kind of sticks out. Blue Ridge Rock Festival was just recently here, and I'm pretty sure I saw TikToks, Instagram Reels, everything pop up. 6 or 7 different influencers, all of them hanging out with one another. They make the distance to meet. Shooting your shot, definitely worth it. And if you shot your shot with somebody, try it with another person. Just keep up that persistence. Again, marathon.
Yeah, marathon. Definitely, TikTok influencers talk to each other. I have a friend who, I don't know, he's from Yonkers. We've been friends for years, like booking his band since I was booking in church basement. And I don't know if they blew up on TikTok. Shakeout, I don't know if any of you know Shakeout, but they blew up on TikTok, and now he's doing a series called Westchester 914, where he goes and is trying to talk to 941 people, there you go, 941 people, to locals, business owners, musicians. He's cultivating another brand on TikTok, but still using his songs at the bottom, in the background, to keep pushing forth whatever music he has. And then on top of AJ does a lot. Shout out to AJ, he's great. And on top of that, he would sometimes even do Shakeout Live, where him and his drummer Chris, who's the band in Canada actually, him and his drummer Chris would go live every Monday night. They would just talk random topics, what's going on in the music world, what's going on in Westchester. They've had guests sometimes on there, just like, hey, we've been friends for years, you're putting out a new song, let's talk about it. You know, there's a lot of different avenues that you can do with TikTok, you know, besides your band. Like AJ, he did his band, and now he's doing his other brand, Westchester 914, you know, trying to like use his influence to build up Westchester a little bit more that way, and business owners and all that stuff.
Yeah, and again, still kind of continuing on as well with influencers in particular, because I know that they do a lot of this. Let's talk about brand deals as well. Like, most bands, they're going to be a little too small for them, but can you talk briefly about like a publicist's role in possibly connecting bands to brands?
Yeah, so obviously connections, publicists usually have these connections or building these relationships. It's really about what can you as a band offer that band. You as a band offer that brand, thank you. Like, Liquid Death is not gonna come and be like, here's a case, la-di-da. Like, why? Why? What are you gonna do with it? You know, you maybe be like, I'm gonna go on tour. We're gonna be in Mexico, and we want a box of Topo Chico, and we're gonna like go to all these different places in Mexico where we're gonna take photos and, you know, in aesthetically pleasing places in Mexico. You know, that Topo Chico band touring in Mexico. That kind of makes sense, you know. Metal band. Maybe going on tour, like that, Liquid Death, that kind of makes sense, you know? Thinking about what you can bring. And then it also goes back to your social media presence. Does your aesthetic make sense with the brand? Do your numbers make sense to the brand for them to even give you something? That's just the reality of them. It's not just a one-way avenue where you can go in, like, I want this, please give it to me. No. You have to be like, this is what I can offer. Now can you please give it to me? You know?
Yeah, and it still, again, goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. Marketability really is going to be key for this, too. Your band is, you know, it's your service. It is your product. Unfortunately, whether you want to or not every band gets big off of being an artist. Sometimes you do have to sell yourself off as a product. People are going to want this thing. How do you make them want you? And that will go back hand in hand with those brand deals. You got to think about it from that outside perspective.
Yeah, maybe you're a big fan of like orange amps. You know, that's all you strictly use. Every photo you like, you have to get my orange amp behind me, and they'll see that like, oh, you're a true fan. Like, that makes sense. You constantly use this. Let's do it. Let's work together. You know?
Yeah, actually, and this one is probably going to be a very broad subject, but what are some major do's and don'ts for bands that are in search of a publicist?
If a publicist offers you the world, like Aladdin, no. Do not get on that carpet. Say no. You don't know if they did your research. You don't know what connections they have. Sure, you can talk to other bands, like, hey, how do you feel about this person, you know? But they're straight up offering you all these goals. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. It's too good, you know? That's a don't. A do is if the publicist sets expectations with you, sits down, talks to you, listens to what you want, your goals, your needs, and says, well, based on this, these are your realistic expectations. This is realistically what we can try and do. Unfortunately, nothing in PR is guaranteed. You know? What is guaranteed and should be guaranteed by every publicist is that they're going to work their butts off for you. Constantly nagging people, constantly emailing, constantly researching, because people, writers, journalists, constantly move publications or are in 15 million publications for some strange reason. It's like, what makes sense for me to pitch to this publication, you know? Making sure that they try to understand what you want and you work together hand in hand. And, you know, be flexible, talk to each other, constant communication, especially constant communication. I think that's a big do, you know? Yeah.
Do you have any maybe particular advice on anyone that's reaching out for a publicist? I'm sure publicists come in all shapes, sizes, work with all different like categories, sizes of the clients and everything like that. Is there anything that you might recommend for like trying to find the publicist that's right for you?
Yeah, look at their roster, see who they've worked with before. If they've only worked with country music stars and you're a punk band, that's not gonna make sense. Make sure it just aligns to your specific genre. Look at any publication that specific band that might sound just like you has gotten because of this publicist. Do your research, you know. Definitely do your research before you commit to anybody.
Awesome. And before we open up to the floor for any questions, is there anything else in particular that you would like to really mention again on like the publicist role with a musician?
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned this before, but I think it's really, really crucial that when you feel ready to have a publicist, that you are organized. If you don't have content, I can't do anything. I literally have had a band recently where they were putting out an LP. They were like, we're gonna do 3 singles. They got me the first single. They were really organized and great. It dropped, amazing. Then I'm like, hey, where's the second single? Where's the music video? I literally did not get the music video until like the week after, and we ended up having to push a premiere a week after. That doesn't look good. That doesn't. You're hurting my relationship with this publication. We already have an established relationship, and it's a little embarrassing. Like I have hey, I'm really sorry, but XYZ band didn't get it to me on time. Can we push it back? I'm really sorry. It's just a little embarrassing for me to say that. But you have to be organized. You have to have your content. You have to have your videos. Everything to the T. And your publicist will probably give you a list of every single thing they'll need in order to have a successful campaign. Without content, your publicist isn't going to be able to do anything.
Awesome. And again, thank you so much for all the insight and offers that you've been able to give to everybody here today. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? Yes, please.
So I have a question. When you are looking to book a client, what is it about them that makes you want to take them versus makes you not want to take them? Like, because you kind of talked about the other part of it. But what makes you not want to take a client, and what makes you feel like they're not successful?
I think it's a great question. As a publicist, we're allowed to say no, for sure. I definitely listen to your music. If I vibe, this is it, I like it, cool, then I go, I talk to you, we have a meeting, I try, be yourself. If the vibes aren't there and it's a little weird, I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's all case by case, the vibes weren't there. I don't know. I definitely had experiences of bands where I had been like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to take you on as a client, because they were like, I want you. I have this single. I'm gonna drop it next month, and an LP like 2 weeks after, and I'm like, whoa. You gotta relax. Let me breathe. I can't do that. Like, I need more time. Like, realistically, a publicist needs at least 4 to 6 weeks before anything drops. That's for sure. I need to do my research about your band. What have you been in? What publications would best fit for you? My press releases, my pitches, all the emails that I have to send out. Because I try to email every publicist, every journalist, individually, as personal as possible, especially if I have those relationships. I'm not a miracle worker. I'm not going to be able to get you a feature or a premiere, anything like that. So, which is why important. We should set expectations for each other. And if it's off, it's off. I'm like, yeah, I don't think we're understanding the expectations, and I'm not going to be able to provide these services that you want realistically in a timely manner. And I'm sorry, maybe you change your timeline and we can talk again. Or if you definitely drop it yourself, and that's okay for you to drop it yourself,
Yeah, it kind of leads back to what you were talking about before with making sure about deadlines and everything, and that is really a very key word, which is professionalism. You need to, this is, if you want this to be your career, your life, your future, you need to be professional about it, and that includes the way that you interact and you work with every single person that is going to be there with you for every step along the journey. Always make sure, and this is just my personal advice on this, and I'm sure you would agree, make sure that everybody that you meet with you leave them with a positive note, because you never know who they talk to. You never know who they interact with.
Absolutely. Listen, like that, you have awkward conversations all the time, and I don't want to come off like as a jerk, but these aren't realistic. But I hope you're able to find what you can somewhere else. If not, drop it by yourself. Can't wait for the release. Good luck. Be professional.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Yes, please.
First of all, you're doing so well.
Thanks, Maria.
I'm so proud of you. So my actual question, what is like a good, for someone starting out, what's a good like starter budget that maybe like we should kind of keep in mind for, reaching out for a publicist? And what does that entail? Like how much or how little are you able to give to us to be able to have the best release possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. PR is an investment. I will say that. PR is an investment. If budget varies from person to person, I think you have to think about it yourself of what you want to realistically spend, and then talk to your publicist and see if that's something that they can do. It's a negotiation, sure. It really depends from publicist to publicist, right? For my old company, our retainer was $1,000, and that was like an artist development retainer. That was month to month with a 3-month minimum. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
For a starting artist. I agree, that's a lot. Thinking about that, one of the reasons why I wanted to do my own PR company is because I want to help like up and coming artists and be a little bit more budget friendly. Let's say you come to me, your budget is $600. Okay, that's realistic. We can work with that. Also month to month. If not all publicists work for month to month retainers with their minimum. Like for instance, my minimum is like 2 months, because you're not gonna get anything the first month. I need to do research. That's what I need to do. I think it's just so hard to say, just because I don't know where your budget is. I don't know. You have to think about it as an artist, how much investment you want to put into yourself, and then always remember that PR is a marathon, not a race. I'm not going to give you the world in your first campaign, but it's a great way for me to start introducing you into the world of media. This is a new artist. They're just starting out. Let's help them out as much as we can,
I think that kind of plays back into what we were talking about yesterday with marketing as well. I mean, you really do want to try and start off yourself in the marketing and find what works for you, where your personal budget lies, and how that budget is working for you. How much is that marketing working for you? Because going back to what we first talked about which is try it yourself first, is going to be bigger in this regard, I would think, because by trying it yourself, you find your budget. You find almost, I want to say your value in that, because you'll find out and feel specifically where that money you are investing into yourself is going. And so once you've had that kind of personal track record to be like, I spent X amount of dollars to get Y result, now you will also be able to use that as leverage, I would say, with a publicist to be able to know, like, this is what I've been able to do with this amount. What can you offer me that makes the value worth it? And then that also helps give you another major selling point as well. Yeah,
especially as a publicist, if I've talked to bands that don't know what PR is, I have to give them PR 101, and that's totally fine. Education is power. Making sure you know other subjects is important within the music industry. But because some bands don't understand what PR does, the value of PR, and not understanding that it's a marathon, not a race, they're going to be like, this is too expensive for no results. And it is like, because it is an investment. We're just starting out. You're a new band. You're not gonna get into Adobe Radio right away. You know, expectations is so crucial. You know.
Yeah. Again, touching on marathon with this one, and back to the marketing and everything else. Again, you guys should really try it yourself, because it will give you that sense of you'll know what you were able to accomplish with your own marketing level, your own marketing skills, your own budget level that you set for yourself. You will see your own results as long as you put in the effort to do that.
And you'll see as a publicist what we have to go through. The amount of no's. Some people are really nice about it. Some people are really rude about it, you know? And the amount of ignored emails. How much follow-up you have to do. How much, like, being on top of your research. Like, who's in this publication? Who's not in this publication? Oh, I just emailed this person. Ooh, they just left this publication, you know? All the hoops and ladders that we have to go through as publicists, you'll understand a little bit better, and maybe that'll give you more. You'll see how more valuable PR can be, and what we have to do on our end as publicists.
Yeah, and you were even saying earlier too about trying to find that right time to find a publicist. And I would say that once you've done some of that marketing for yourself, once you've done some of that outreach, you've gotten to really feel where everything is. If you start to feel, and please let me know, if you start to feel like your marketing is taking up the time that it takes for you to perform, or vice versa, that your performing is starting to hurt your own marketing, I would think that would probably be about the best time to really look into a publicist.
Yeah, if you can't do it anymore by yourself, look into getting help. For sure, publicist.
Any other questions from anybody else in the room?
Yes.
All right.
Well, wait, no, he had a question.
Yes.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
As a journalist, I agree with everything that you're saying. I get local bands all the time reaching out to me, for coverage and stuff like that. And obviously, I'm only one person. I try to handle as much as I possibly can. And I get solicitations from PR companies and stuff all the time. Some pitches and all that kind of stuff. Could you maybe explain why, like a campaign or a song premiere, an album premiere, things like that, why is that important for an artist to do over just putting it out themselves? Because I run into that a lot, where they just want to get the music out there. They're so excited. They're just so happy to have new music. They just want to share it with everybody. And I'm constantly like, hey guys, like, I could have done something really great with this. We could have done a great premiere. We could have done whatever. And you guys just put it out there, and now a week later you're wondering, why does no one care anymore? Because you already put it out there, that's it. The campaign is over. You just basically shot yourself in the foot by just putting it out there to everybody. And it's like, well, yeah, it's on all streaming platforms. So are a million other things. So like, maybe you could explain why, like, the song premiere, video premieres, things like that, those types of articles, those exclusive sort of things, like why they're important to do over just putting it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do any of you know Gary Vee? Yeah, Gary Vee. Gary Vee is great. One of the things he talks about a lot in, I forgot what book it was, but content is king. Content is king. And you're also establishing relationships with publication. So having exclusives is another way of having content for you and your socials. Cross-promoting what's going on with this publication and what they're doing. Driving traffic to them, and as opposed, they're doing the same, driving traffic to you. It's a partnership. It's always a two-way street. No one's going to do anything if you don't help each other out. That's why we always say, help each other out, get to know each other, all that stuff. But it's very important to do all these exclusives because there's so much content you can do. The premiere, the single premiere. A journalist can break down a song, what they think this song is about, and do an interview with you. This is what I think. What do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Can you go more into it? We can do a song, a track by track. You breaking down what each song of your album means, having an exclusive interview, talking about what your message in this particular song was, what your message in the visuals of this music video was, the overall concept of your EP, LP. You know, there's a lot of content that you can get out of an album, out of a single song, if you go and put it out there to publications first, so they can hear it, they can take some time, they can listen to it, figure out if they like it or not. It's the reality of it. And then go from there. This is all the creative ways we could do it. Let's make this content. Let's promote each other. More things to promote about this single. Building up, especially everything's a layer. Building up if you're doing like an LP release, right? Everything's a layer. Single drop. Like 5 different things about this single. Hyping you up until, hey, the single is the first one off our debut LP coming out in January, you know? Hyping, you know, layers upon layers upon layers.
Yeah, the easiest way to think about it. Why do you release a single for an album? You release a single to hype up the album itself. Why wouldn't you give that single the same kind of level? Build it up, make sure that you make it, and it all comes back down to the exact same thing. Marketability, making it a product, making it something you are proud of and that you are happy to present. Because if you are proud of it, I promise you that is going to carry it so much farther.
Yeah, and you worked really hard on this single. You know, I don't know, sometimes it takes like a couple days to record one single. You're just going to put it out there and la-di-da, that's it? No, give it some love. Build up. Give all your singles some love. And give your album love. Everything needs some attention. And that's why we stress so much timeline, because we need room to breathe for each single, you know? As there's the single hit peak, I'm already working on your next single while it's like dying down, you know? And then I'm like, okay, don't forget about this band. I know you just heard it. It died down a little bit. Now let's hit the other peak with the second single. You know, it's like a roller coaster.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
So if we are doing it ourselves, what's a good timeline between the singles, and then what's a good timeline, like the chunk of time that you should have in between them to let it breathe, but also get ready for the next one?
4 to 6 weeks. That's my go-to. 4 to 6 weeks. So to prepare before anything drops, I usually need 4 to 6 weeks. Single drops, 4 to 6 weeks. You're preparing and writing everything. Second single drops, and so on and so forth. If you're doing this to lead up to an EP or an album, as you're working, usually for publicists, as we're working on single 1, we're also working on our LP stuff at the same time. So we're multitasking in those things, because we're saying, hey, this single's coming off of the debut album. By the way, here's an advanced listening private link for you to listen to the whole album, because you don't know how long it takes that specific journalist to listen to an album, or what their writing process is, what their timeline is for each individual magazine, you know, publication, all that. Everybody works differently, so just getting it in advance will like be so much helpful. And they already know that this is coming out, and it's like, okay, now they know to keep an eye on single 2, single 3, and then the LP, and they're already ready for the LP when it comes out. Like, oh, I already wrote about it, so there you go.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for coming up here.
Thank you for having me, David. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to take a little 5-minute break here and reset everything, and then we will be back with our next guest.
I'll be here. I'll be hanging if anybody wants to talk. Thank you.